Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. May I have approval of the agenda?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. With that, John, could you please have us lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Would you all please rise, remove your hats. You may. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, John. And with that, let's hand it over to Mark with today's announcements.
Thank you, Shannon. We want to congratulate our Beloit Memorial High School Jazz Band for earning one out of only 15 spots to the National Essentially Ellington Jazz Festival in New York City this May. Almost 100 entries were submitted, with only 4 schools securing a spot for a second consecutive year, including BMHS. News of fundraisers and performances will be posted on the district website. Opening weekend for the BMHS Theater's Spring Musical in the Heights is March 8th and 9th, with performances starting at 7:30 p.m. This 2008 Tony Award-winning musical tells the story of a New York neighborhood on the brink of change. Tickets are $8 for adults and $5 for students and senior citizens. More information can be found on our district events calendar. Theater students are also working hard on perfecting their performance of Zombie Prom for the Worldwide Fringe Festival in Scotland this August, an honor reserved for top theater groups. One of their fundraisers involves selling guesses as to when Nessie, the Rock Ness monster, will sink through the ice on Riverside Lagoon. Nessie, a replica of Scotland's Loch Ness monster, was created by the school's art department. Top prize of $1,000 will go to the person whose guess is closest to the date, hour, and minute that Nessie sinks. Second place is $250, and the third place winner gets $100. Guesses are $5 each, 3 for $10, or 8 for $20, and are available for sale at the front desk of the high school and the front office of the Colac Education Center. Even better, each guess comes with a $2 discount off one admission to the spring musical. We are still taking enrollments at our central enrollment office during regular business hours. We welcome those out there to look at the increased course offerings, smaller class sizes, state model programs, and award-winning activities that the school district of Beloit offers. The link for open enrollment can also be found on our homepage, www.beloitschools.net. Finally, don't forget to set your clocks ahead before bed on March 9th, as daylight savings time begins early on Sunday, March 10th. This concludes the February announcements.
Thank you, Mark. I also wanted to give a shout out to our boys basketball for making it to regional finals, and to our swim team, boys swim team, for making it to state, as well as Nick Summers from our Beloit wrestling team for making it to state. So congratulations to our athletes. I apologize if I missed anybody, but with that, Melissa, could you please join us at the podium for our recognitions for this evening?
I think I'd have to try for a few guesses for that Nessie contest, but I think at the rate we're going with the snow, I think I'd go for May, so I don't know. I might be a little off. We have a group here from our local Crime Stoppers with a special recognition for one of our security resource officers. So I'd like to call up Detective John Farney and Dan Stoppaker and Terry Roden to please join me at the podium.
First of all, what I'll do is I'll explain a little bit about our Quick 50 program with Crime Stoppers. Basically, it's a program in McNeil, Aldridge, and at the high school where students, if they have information involving someone bringing drugs to school, a weapon to school, or alcohol to school, or even stolen property, or if they're involved in stealing property from a teacher or the classroom, if they come to a teacher, a principal, or in this case, Mr. Roden, they're eligible for a reward from Crime Stoppers of $50. And in 2011, we had 16 Quick 50 payouts for the entire school district. Last year, we had 28 payouts. So a lot of that has to do with the work that the school resource officers put into the program. And obviously, Security Officer Roden here has done a great job supporting the Quick 50 program at McNeil. It's not really a surprise to me because I worked with Terry when he was the captain at Beloit Township for many years. And I've never seen any police officer since I've been almost 24 years that has worked harder than Terry Roden has. And he's kind of carried that on to the school district. And the school district is very lucky to have somebody like him in their system because he does a great job. The kids really relate well to Terry, and he's always trying to get information from the kids as far as what's going on in the schools, and obviously he's been very effective. So tonight, Beloit Area Crime Stoppers is presenting Terry with his plaque. This says the Greater Beloit Area Crime Stoppers recognizes Terry Roden for his continuing support of the Quick 50 program. And I know Mr. Bosco would like to say a few words about Terry also.
I've had the pleasure of working with Officer Roden since 2006 when we first had security officers come to the middle school level. And I think that plaque should really have something on it about building relationships with kids, because that's really what this is about. Any students that are walking to school, he greets in the morning. Any students walking home from school, he talks to at night as they cross the street. He's always in the hallways. He's always willing to help students, give them pencils, school supplies. They just really see him as a valuable part of our community, and that's what makes the difference with students feeling comfortable coming to him when there's something going on. So Terry, I appreciate you. You've done a great job for us, and thank you. Thank you.
Well, thanks to everybody here, especially Crime Stoppers. I worked with Crime Stoppers when I was with the police department for 30 years. They're a valuable tool. They help solve multiple cases when there's no other means to solve them. Especially like to thank Detective Farney, and it would have been Robert Flugel. He worked as a coordinator before John. They give us whatever we need. They provide posters, keychains, promotions for Crime Stoppers. Try to get the kids involved. That's the important thing. You got to get them involved. I was hired in 06, I believe. At that time, I was given the opportunity to either work part-time or full-time, and I chose to work part-time. But Doug Reynolds, who was the coordinator at that time, talked me out of it, and then he had me choose which school I wanted to work with, and I chose McNeil, and I'm extremely happy that I did, because I owe a lot that I have done and accomplished to McNeil and the fine staff there and the administration there, which two of them are here tonight that I have high regard for, and they are current administrators over there. But I think the main thing is that it comes down to the kids. The kids, what makes this Crime Stoppers program work. And if it wasn't for the kids, we wouldn't have some of these weapons recovered, and we wouldn't have some of the drugs out of these schools. But the main thing is these kids, if you can earn their trust and communicate with them, you can learn a lot of things from them. And I think everything boils down to the kids. They learn to trust you, and then, you can accomplish a lot of things. It's a wonderful school district. I think you're heading in the right direction, and I am really happy to be working here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, I think, Mr. Roden, or Officer Roden, your points about trust and communication are essential. And I think that also mirrors the commitment and the partnership between Crime Stoppers and the school district. Just like in our earlier meeting we were talking about partnerships with Beloit Health. It's our partnerships within our community that really make us successful. So thank you to yourself and to Beloit Crime Stoppers for the partnership we have with our district, and we truly greatly appreciate it. Melissa.
Thanks. We have a little treat for the board. I'm so excited about this. So I'd like to call up some of our student musicians from the Anatawin studio to please come up to the podium if you're ready.
Please all rise when we start the thing again.
Here to introduce the students and for us to recognize tonight, we have here James Simmons, son of Anatowin studio founder Joseph Simmons, his mother Dorothea, sisters Catherine and Jackie, and we also have our Hackett Elementary principal, Marcia Schwengels here. If you could all come up to the podium. Joseph Simmons and his wife Dorothea, here tonight, had found Beloit a wonderful place to live, work, and educate their children. The Anatowin Clinic originated in 1951 with Mr. Simmons' work and research on teaching of proper muscular coordination in playing wind instruments. A patent for this teaching method was issued in 1961, and the Simmons family helped grow the operation to reach students anywhere in the world using modern technology. And the studio was recently sold to the district in order to provide space needed for referendum additions to Hackett School, and they did so willingly and with a smile and talked about memories when we talked with Mr. Simmons about their family relationship with Hackett. It was absolutely marvelous. So, Mr. Simmons, if you'd like to introduce you.
My father, Joseph Simmons, who passed away in 2008, was a believer in live music, young musicians, performance. So tonight you had, these are all members of the Green Beret Marching Organization out of Janesville. Alex Schrader and Trenton Leffel are students at Milton High School. Delaney is a student at Parker High School, and Donald Siam is at Aldridge. And Jack Schrader is director of the Green Beret Marching Band. I wanted to, can I just say, I just wanted to thank the school board. When my father came to Beloit in 1950, he had been involved in every level of education. And he looked carefully at the Beloit School District for his children. And he found creativity. He found everything he was looking for in the teachers, and my sisters and myself are proud graduates of the Beloit School District. If a student is looking for an education, it's in the Beloit School District. So when my father began Anatowin in 1933 as a young man, it took him on a 30-year course of research. And so when he left Beloit College in 1959 to start Anatowin, it was only because of Dorothea Simmons who would tell my father, Joe, if you're not happy, I'm not happy. Without that, there'd been no Anatowin. My sisters grew up. In fact, they came up with a song which tells a little bit about how much they heard my father's French horn in his research. Was my daddy plays a French horn. He plays it all day long. He plays it Monday and Tuesday and all the other ones. My daddy plays a French horn. He plays it loud and clear. I hope he sells it someday soon because she screams, now she's 5 years old, I'm sick of it. So when my father received the patent, teaching proper muscular coordination in the playing of musical instruments through personal demonstrations, clinics, reports, etc. When we redid this with the lawyer 2 years ago, he said the et cetera was a brilliant move. Because nowadays, if you even put et cetera to the government, they say, no, you define. But the lawyer said he can defend that in a court of law, and whatever you decide et cetera is, Jim, you can do it. So that led to 50 wonderful years at 615 8th Street, and we would have been there another 50. Hackett kids grew up watching my father play his French horn in the backyard. They'd see him probably through the windows of the school. They'd come by and ask him what he was doing. And when the doctoral dissertation came on Anatowin in 1975, it was a great accomplishment for him. He guided it. It had been accepted now into the academic community, vetted by experts in the field. And my only comment and challenge to the school board, if they ever want to update, my dad always liked to use the word update. It's not being demeaning anybody, but if you want to update your musical concepts, the clinic can show you the latest in technology. For example, the use of a musical strobe that anybody makes to show musicians for the first time what their tone is, so they can control that area, because it's one of the most sensitive areas in music. Finally, to Mr. Steve McNeil, who guided us with compassion, dignity. He was a tough but fair negotiator. I mean, he told us, look, I'm in this for the school district and the benefit of the students. Made that very clear. But we will always be thankful to Mr. Steve McNeil, the Anatowin family, of how he treated us. I want to thank you. Finally, I'd just like to, if my father was here tonight, I'd just like to read what he would feel. This is from the song, If I Ruled the World, sung by Tony Bennett. If I ruled the world, every day would be the first day of spring. Every heart would have a new song to sing, and we sing the joy of every morning would bring. If I ruled the world, every man would be as free as a bird, every voice would be a voice to be heard. Take my word, we would treasure each day that occurred. My world would be a beautiful place where we would weave such wonderful dreams. My world would wear a smile on its face like the man in the moon has when the moon beams. If I ruled the world, every man would say the world was his friend. There'd be happiness that no man could end. No, my friend, not if I ruled the world. Every head would be held up high. There'd be sunshine in everyone's sky if the day ever dawned when I ruled the world. As a parent said, this is not a goodbye to Anatowin, it's a new beginning. Thank you, and God bless.
Marcia Schwengels, the Hackett principal.
We would just like to thank the Anatowin family for their willingness to work with the district and give our children what they so deserve with the addition to Hackett School. And your father would be very, very excited and proud that part of this addition is a brand new music room that has not been at Hackett School ever. So the children will be able to explore and study and learn much in the way of music that they're unable to do right now the way it's taught. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have to say that in talking with you before and hearing you tonight, it's obvious that your passion for music and the love of your family is just tremendous. And for you to share that with us is just overwhelming. And I'm very honored to be the one to present this to Anatowin in recognition of outstanding partnership with the School District of Beloit and extraordinary support of the facilities referendum. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Melissa. And I want to say again, thank you for the partnership, and thank you for the commitment to the Beloit School District. Thank you for your kind words. And I think that what we had in front of us tonight and what we saw perform, and I can only speak to Donald, because Donald, I know you being in the district, but we have student athletes that are musicians, that are students, and it really makes for well-rounded students. And it's phenomenal what actually music can do and how it can touch so many different areas. So, and I want to say thank you for the other students that are here tonight that aren't part of our district, and but you could be. Absolutely, it's open enrollment time. Beloit has great things. But thank you for your commitment to music and to the program and to the family. Thank you for everything you've done for Beloit. Thank you for what you continue to do and for your commitment and your partnership. It is instrumental to the success of our district. So thank you very much. With that, Let's move forward with citizens or delegations and areas of interest that are not on tonight's agenda. Is there anybody who wishes to speak to an item that is not posted on tonight's agenda? If so, I would ask that you rise and move to the podium at this time.
I'm glad to be here.
Seeing none, I am going to move forward then to the superintendent's report to the board. And first up, we'll have school updates. And I believe we have McNeil on tap first.
First, we'd like to thank the board and the superintendent for inviting us to be here tonight. We really appreciate that. This year, 2012-13 school year, started out with a lot of change at McNeil. We have a new schedule. I have a brand new administrative team, a lot of change going on. One of the things that you are offered or have the opportunity to do when you have a new administrative team, though, is kind of look at what are those, staff members' strengths and kind of develop things for them to do their job descriptions based on what those strengths are. And I think with Ms. Papke, Mr. Vrydogs, Ms. Williford, the three administrators I'm working with this year, we've done a great job of that. We set essentially three big goals for ourselves this year. We have our BHAGs, Big Hairy Audacious Goals in reading and mathematics. The second goal that we had that Ms. Papke is going to spend some time on is PBIS and getting to Tier 2. And then our last goal is to continue to work on culture in our building and using the collaborative walkthrough process that we learned about it during Admin Academy last summer to do that. Ms. Papke has been a great addition to my administrative team and to McNeil Middle School, to the Home of the Lancers, just because she comes with a wealth of PBIS knowledge. I mean, she talks about things that I'm learning every day from her, and I think you guys will this evening. So without any further ado, Ms. Papke.
And I'll kind of stick back and forth with my slides in the presentation. You have the copies of this with you. By this point, you've heard PBIS over and over, but as a reminder, it stands for Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. The focus on that first word, positive, just being so key through this, and that constant teaching expectations. So when you walk through a PBIS school, you see the expectations everywhere you go. In many schools, they reflect what we have: be safe, be respectful, be responsible. But it breaks down in all of those buildings. You'll see posters that show exactly what that means in every different setting. So students are constantly exposed to what is expected of me here, what is expected of me here, and how can I follow through with that. Things stated very positively, and the teachers are teaching weekly, daily through lessons. We have a teacher who, part of his role on our PBIS team is to develop lessons based on what our current data tells us. Where are we getting a lot of discipline referrals? Then he will create lessons specific to different pieces of that to make it really unique and applies well to what the students kind of have going on. In that same teacher's classroom, I walked into his creative and critical thinking class one day to find that they took the same data that the PBIS team studies every 2 to 3 weeks and that the staff looks at monthly, and he had his kids picking apart the data and talking about what it means to them and hearing similar conversations that you're hearing the adults have. So I look at PBIS as a great way to sort of bring us all together to establish that common language. The positive acknowledgement piece is just huge. Our goal is to be acknowledging 5 times positive to every 1 correction for a student. That can be hard. Sometimes that isn't our natural way, so kind of self-monitoring, checking yourself, and some of that is how we model that to each other. So our staff has done a fantastic job this year of recognizing each other through awards called Whatever It Takes. They're just little certificates and they get a little snack or treat with them. And in our building, we've had 460 of those little notes given to each other. And then when you do, you visit classrooms and you see the teachers are hanging them up and they're just a friendly reminder to them as they go. But again, there's often chocolate or something like that involved in it, and that often helps. Let's see. Again, another teacher, when we went into his classroom, he was looking for students to start using that positive language with each other. So as they were assessing the work that they were doing, he gave them sticky notes and said, you can only write positive comments to one another. And so as they left positive comments, students who had unfinished assignments were getting positive comments from each other. Students who maybe didn't have the neatest assignment were getting positive comments from each other. And he said that it was nearly impossible to take some of those maps back from the students when they were reading the great things about themselves, because they hadn't heard that, especially from their peers before. So we're continuing to just build that culture of that positive. And you look again at, why does Terry have the success that he has? Because he's building positive relationships with students. It goes across everywhere that we go, and it just becomes the culture of the building. We are using that data constantly. I'm going to take you for a second to the program that we use, which is called SWIS. We enter all of our discipline data. Where'd you go? That probably didn't work well. Okay, so we look at what they call the quick big five. So we look at the average referrals per day per month for the year, and you see that September, new to the year, everything's looking kind of good. It's a lower bar. And as we're getting into the year, it is pretty natural to see that the number of referrals per year may increase. But as we came back after break, we're starting to see a decrease. February's not over yet, so we may end up in a similar place to January, but we're starting to see things kind of trend down. When we look at the problem behaviors, it's absolutely clear to us that disrespect and disruption to the classroom are the biggest areas. So you'll frequently see that the lessons that are developed are really hitting responses to adults in the classroom. How to stay on task, how to redirect without being sent out of the room. And teachers are really utilizing a three-step system with the goal, as much as possible, to keep students in the class. We want them in the class, we want them learning and not sent out. However, we acknowledge there are times that students will be sent out. They'll receive their consequence, and our goal is to have them back into the classroom setting as soon as possible. The next is looking at referrals by location. Again, the classroom is definitely the highest place that we're seeing referrals happen. So the lessons are being delivered in the classroom. As we move, and we'll talk a little bit later about how we're moving forward, when we look at hallway and cafeteria behaviors, when we see those increasing, we'll actually deliver lessons to groups of students where that is a concern in those settings. And we'll role play and we act things out to kind of come out with where we want to go. When you look at by time, while in a way this looks all over the place, we see 3 big spikes here, and just for your own frame of reference, those are pretty close to the 3 different lunch times. So a lot of it is that transition time between lunches and then getting into that last period, or the next period after a lunch period. So looking back to some of the brain-based strategies that we learned in the beginning of the year, some of the lessons that the teachers are looking at doing now is how can we implement some ways to transition better into the classroom to prevent rather than to correct the behavior as it comes in. Then the last piece just is not there. In your packets, you have one with a whole bunch of little black lines. It's purposeful that you don't see all the numbers and the names because we don't want students to be identified. You'll see like that 5 or less referrals line hits the majority of the students. So you see that your frequent flyers, the students who are getting a lot of referrals, are really a small piece of the pie. And when we get to that, then we were fortunate this year to reach fidelity at Tier 2, or at Tier 1, so that we can go on to our Tier 2 training. When we look at PBIS, we compare it to RTI, so the things that we're doing academically. We know that we're providing instruction for the majority of our students at a universal level, and then looking at pieces where students are struggling, we do the exact same thing with what we present behaviorally to the students. We know right now that our data tells us that about 90% of our students, this usually looks at an 80 to 90% range, we really do have about 90% of our students who are succeeding at the universal level, and we have about 10% of our students right now that we're looking at introducing secondary interventions for. That's part of the Tier 2 training that we're working with, so we're not meeting as many of the students' needs as we want to, but we're focusing tightly on a selected group as we pilot the strategies at the Tier 2 level. When the focus comes to the Tier 2, sometimes we forget about what we need to do with the universal. So we have a group that's focused only on keeping the universal strong. So we look at always combining the behavior and the academic, and that we just look at this, it's a lifestyle. We're Lancers in school, we're Lancers out of school. It's how we make a difference to all the people around us. So another data piece I'd like you to look at from your packet is the year-to-date comparison. So if you look at this top section, these are the referrals broken down by grade level and broken down by month from last year. And then you can look at where we're at this year. So we started the year pretty similar. As we go month by month, you're seeing significant decreases in the number of referrals from one year to the other. So we put this data out to teachers, and we don't want to just make assumptions. Yay, PBIS is working fabulously. Well, wonderful, we have a new administrative team, we have great teachers. We want to hear from the teachers, and we want to hear from students. Why do you think this is? And they really do believe that by teaching the lessons, by reinforcing the expectations, and by making all of the efforts to keep the students in class, working with them in class, and redirecting and reteaching in class, this is where we're starting to see the decreases. You hear teachers talking through the data more often, and the staff is just really active in participating in the lessons. Staff are now contributing ideas for what they'd like to see in the lessons, so you just see that this different enthusiasm, and it's just really neat to see, and then asking for what kind of PD can we have to continue where we're going. It's really important, whether we're staff or students, to take care of each other. We are one family, we are Lancers in and out, and that we need to just look out for each other and use that positive, and then use those reminders in everything that we're doing. So next steps, we have a group of teachers, student services staff, and myself who are in the Tier 2 training. The biggest intervention that comes in at Tier 2 is something called check-in, check-out. It's about that relationship. It's about connections that you're making. And we have about 5 students at each grade level right now just piloting it so that we can really master this. We're seeing about 50% of the students actively participating. Some of them, it might not be the right fit for them right now, and we're adjusting to make that work. But of the students who are regularly participating, they're getting their 80% or better 80% of the time. So we're seeing great success in that, and then those students are not getting as many discipline referrals as they had in the past. So we're seeing success. We know we have lots of room to grow. We've other interventions that will come in with the upcoming trainings, but we're really just excited. And I just want to finish with a slide that we showed the kids when we started the year. So telling them, you know, you've got 2 choices here as you begin your year at the home of the Lancers. And if you follow the McNeil way and you keep your eye on the prize, you've got great things ahead of you. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from board members or comments? Steve?
I just want to compliment Tony and Jen and Joe and Sarah and the entire McNeil staff. They're really changing the culture over there, and you can see it, you know, a lot of the behaviors that, you know, are the kids are displaying, and the way they act in the halls, and all of those things are a little more calmer than they used to be, and I just think it's a really reflective to the administrative team and to the entire teaching staff over there, so.
And I also want to say thank you, and thank you for all the good work. And I have to say, when I go through all the schools and just looking at my own students, there is a group of students and a group of ages that seem to be the biggest handful, and it falls in those middle school years. So anybody who's committed to those, congratulations, thank you. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how I made it through those years with my own children, but your commitment is phenomenal, and thank you for all you're doing for our students, because it's a hard time for them, obviously, as they're going through transitions in their lives. So thank you, and great work. And I see John Acom.
You know, one of the most interesting things was showing us progress over 3 years with PBIS, and what it's done in terms of the actual culture of the school and in terms of our kids and their culture and so on and so forth. And this is something else too. We as a school district in, I think, all of our buildings are using PBIS yearly. We're doing it with Fidelity. And the result is a good result because we can see the progress with our kids, and we can see the character development, we can see the discipline, we can see all those things, and it's phenomenal. So, great job.
And with that, let's turn it over to Converse.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having Converse here. Diane Meyer has accompanied me, and she will be doing the PowerPoint. As I discuss it, we're in the middle of our new Cougar, so this isn't the final stage yet, but...
Stephanie? Yeah, sorry.
Oh, is that what you were saying? I
she
saw you doing
appreciate
something,
the
Sharon.
hand
Okay.
gestures, but we
Sorry.
gotta hear you.
Okay, so we're in the process of getting a new Cougar. So this is our Cougar in progress right now for our new gym wall. Okay, Steve, I won't talk about the construction too much. It's very exciting. But we do have many highlights this year. One is that we were recognized for the second time as the Wisconsin School of Recognition. The staff and the students have worked very, very hard, very diligently, keeping our fingers crossed for year 3. And this is a picture. I think you'll recognize everyone in it. That is State Superintendent Tony Evers, and next to Steve McNeil is Mimi Rasmussen, one of our great teachers who unfortunately is retiring this year. But she went along for the trip to Madison. Next, I'm just going to go over briefly our most recent map testing. Keep in mind that this is preliminary. It's fairly accurate. Before I go through each grade level, I'm happy to say that we exceeded the national mean for growth in all grades. So very excited about that. Looking at kindergarten, what's highlighted there is what I'd like you to kind of take a peek at. We always have the little summer slump, and I've got some ideas along with the staff on how we're going to address that for next year. But we were a little bit below the national mean in reading in kindergarten, but as you can see, at winter we were well above the national mean, and we were above the national mean as far as the grades went, and we were well above with the national mean in the area of growth for kindergarten. For first grade, we had a little slow start there in the fall, but we picked up during the year, and the winter we are above the national mean, and we are quite a bit higher in the national growth area. Second grade. We started out a little slow in second, but we're picking up speed with the winter being above in math. We're still a little bit, we're closing the gap in reading. I'm confident that in the spring we will be above. And as you can see, we've made tremendous growth, well above the national mean. Third grade. In the fall, we were below the national mean. We still are slightly below, but we're closing that gap. And you can see again that we have surpassed the national mean growth. So I'm also confident come spring, that will be where we need to be. And we are looking at our students from spring to spring growth. So that's been a main emphasis with our staff and our students this year. What else we did this year was very interesting. Even though we're a K-3 school, soon to become a 4K through 3, we do have the students in grades 1, 2, and 3 do map goal sheets. And it really impacts their involvement in the test and the importance of it. And we've really seen a nice rise in the scores along with that. Kindergarten, just because of the age level, we're going to wait until the spring and then do more like smiley faces type thing to kind of prepare them for first grade. So, and I also wanted to let you know, in case you weren't aware, there is a different type of test at second grade. It's called Survey with Goals. So that's always an indicator with scores if they're not quite where we would expect them at second grade from the previous first grade, simply because the test is not being read to them. And they're used to having the test read in KN1. So, all right. And I'm just going to talk very briefly about PBIS. Right now we're at Tier 1. We're very confident that we'll be at Fidelity by May of this year. If you look at our team implementation checklist, which we did about a month ago, Mrs. Meyer, I believe, we're 46% full implementation, and we're only 36% away. We're at partial, what's called partial implementation, and also we're at a current percentage of 64, but as I said, we're very confident we're going to pick up that partial, and we will be more than ready for Tier 2 next year. Sorry, my sheets are sticking. We do a self-assessment survey with the staff. You can see that we've done a lot of growth from last year to this year. We were 43% last year, and this year we're at 82. And the survey is completed by all staff members regarding the implementation of our PBIS practices. We've done a lot of new things with PBIS practice in our building this year. We also do, we've been doing this, I believe, 3 years now, intervention bands, which are really helpful with meeting the district curriculum. And what these are 30-minute intervention bands in kindergarten, first and second grade. We do a 45-minute intervention band at third because the kids are older and they can handle it. But you might be surprised to know that all of the staff get together every 4 to 6 weeks. We look at the students' highest needs in areas of reading and math where they need that extra intervention at Tier 1 or Tier 2 or Tier 3. And they actually mix the kids up. So you could have students from Mrs. Malot's room going to Mrs. Nordstrom's room and vice versa. And the little ones are really adept at doing that. So they're used to that. We do it right away in the fall, and it works very well. They're grouped according to their highest academic need. As I said, in either math or reading. They're flexible. They're restructured as needed. The staff have 2 PLCs every week, every grade level does, and one of those is committed, we call it our data PLC, and that's committed to looking over and discussing how each week is going since the kids are in different classrooms so that we can keep up to date and keep the homeroom teachers informed on progress. Some of our student activities at Converse, we have junior achievement. We are working with the UW Extension Nutrition Program. We have Nike, Nicotine is Kids' Enemy. We have our Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Grant for the 2nd year in a row. We have Just Say No, Student Council. We started an AM walking club, which is really important for a number of reasons. Mostly because it gets, we know we need to work on the physical portion of our kids' lives. And they just walk around, and it also, if you're familiar with Marcia Tate's dendrites theories, it also gets them going and getting them ready for the day and getting off to a great start. We have fitness gains coming up. That'll be an after-school program as well. We have an art club coming up. The next slide is a picture of our Zumba class, and that's Ms. Harris, midair. She also teaches adult Zumba classes, but the kids love it, and we've had an awesome turnout for that. Some other activities. Right now we presently have the Young Authors Club. Last week it started. We had 50 kids staying after school. And it's for 2nd and 3rd grades, and the kids will create, write, and publish their own works of writing. And then the next slide is just a picture of the Young Authors Club. And one of our more recent and new additions to our activities is Adopt a Cop. This program is in conjunction with the Beloit Police Department, and it's to improve relationships between the police department and students and families. So we have Officer Tom Halverson who works second shift, and he comes in, I'd say, 2 or 3 times a week. He'll help us at the end of he'll come in before school ends, is very visible, talks to kids, talks to staff. Everybody loves it. We had a little one that was afraid of the police, and not anymore. He'll come in at lunchtime and sit with the kids and eat with the kids. So it's been a really great program. So those are just a few of our Converse highlights for this year.
Questions or comments from board members? John Akam.
I like the fact that we're looking at our MAP scores and comparing our results to national results and finding that we're doing better. I think that's that's becoming more and more common in our school district. I think it's great. I think it's something we need to talk more about, and I think it's fantastic, and it shows the success of our overall effort in your school as well as others.
Thank you. Yes,
Thank you.
Our district is definitely moving in the right direction. It's very exciting. Oh, and I do have one more thing I'd like to add. The construction, and then I'll be done, Shannon. The construction is going fantastic, and we are planning on moving into the north wing of the new addition right after break. So come by anytime, and I'll give you a tour. Thank you.
Oh, we're not done.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm keeping you around a little longer. John Winkleman, please.
So can I take us back to MAPS scores that
Sure.
you had up on the screen? So you talked about growth factor in each of those. How is that measured? How is it defined? What does it mean?
How
So you
do
said
we
we're
figure
doing
out?
well in the growth factor, so we're doing exceedingly well in the growth factor. So,
How do we find out what that growth factor is, you
yeah,
mean?
what does that
from-
mean for us? I don't, how's it measured?
Okay, that's a good question. The national mean?
No,
That's
the growth factor.
Our growth for our individual school, we look at what we scored in the previous, like for fall.
Okay.
And then we subtract from what we've done in the winter. And that's how we figure out the growth increments. Does that make sense?
NWEA has normed fall to spring growth. So for each grade level, there's a chart that says a second grader should grow by 5 points in math for that year.
Okay.
So then we compare our growth to what NWEA says kids at that grade level should be growing. And that's where the comparison comes.
Thanks, Tony.
You bet.
He explained it much better than I did, John.
And then as you started, you talked about changing your Cougar. So,
yes,
why are we changing the Cougar, and what's the difference?
To update it and to make it look more friendly.
Oh, so it's a friendly Cougar, not an ornery Cougar. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. The one we have now is baring its teeth for a 4K3 school.
Just checking. All right.
Yeah. A little friendlier Cougar there.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much, and thanks for sharing. And I always love to hear about the elementary schools.
Thank you, and come visit anytime. We love visitors.
Yes, you do. Thank you so much. With that, yeah, that could be. That would be less aggressive, definitely. With that, let's move to our construction update. Mr.
I
McGee.
just want to point out some of Stephanie's options on Cougars were woeful. Okay, so we've moved away from those, so. Much better attempt here, so. Jeff Jacobson's off to a Building and Grounds conference, and so I'm second team's in here tonight doing it. So we're going to talk a little bit about the referendum. I want to point out one thing immediately that, little talks going on about budget in the state of Wisconsin and lack thereof budget in the state of Wisconsin for schools. I want to point out one thing that can be a misconception that people get out there is you passed the $70 million referendum. How could you have any budgetary problems? Again, that's not operating budget, that's capital expenditures, that's for building buildings. You cannot use that to run a school district. So therefore, you didn't pass that referendum to operate the school district the next year or for years to come. And it's real important for people to get the distinction of those two things. So with that, we're going to move forward real quick. Robinson, I'll just tell you, I want to point out what has happened at our building sites with local contractors has been nothing less than outstanding. So our people have just really embraced it and owned it and given our community exactly what we was hoping that that pride in their ownership of our building. So Robinson, being done by corporate contractors, is just flying along. They are now putting walls up, they're putting ceiling grids up, they're putting all the mechanical, electrical is all getting finished, and they are going into finishing products as far as putting sheetrock and that up inside and really forming those classrooms inside. About 50% done. Converse, much the same way. Converse is, as Stephanie said, the projects are going so well. Converse is done by Klobuchar Construction, and it's been an amazing thing also. Is that Stephanie in there?
Probably.
Yeah, way in the depths there. But at any rate, again, they're getting to the same thing. They're putting their walls up, the ceiling grids, and the same thing. Merrill is about a week or so behind, but now completely enclosed and getting to the points where the windows will be all done and all of that enclosed, and the floors are being all finished at this time. So again, very quickly getting there. The pool has had a little bit of a setback because of weather. You know, we had this whole thing called winter come along, and suddenly a lot more snow. And believe it or not, when snow melts, it comes down the hill to the pool. And so they've had a lot of dewatering, not because of the river, but because what's come down off of the hills from. So good for us, though. They're coming along really well. They are looking to put in the precast walls there the end of probably midway through March. The next one is the tennis courts, well in design, all through engineering, and will be bid out sometime in the next month to move forward. When we get to the Phase 2 and Phase 3 project, I have to tell you the way it's working now is they're all phasing together so that the Phase 1 projects are really getting to that halfway point and beyond, and now the other projects are getting to bids and past bids and are going to be starting construction in early April. So the BMHS Fitness Center, next one. The fitness center, now we've had committee meet a couple different times, and we're starting to define what that will look like. And what will that design be? What are the electrical needs? What are those things that we'd like to have in it? We are, doing some visits to other school districts that have recently put together fitness centers and kind of looking at what the best practice, if you would be, in fitness centers. If anybody in the public has some ideas or would like to be involved in that, please give me a call. We'd love to have some more input on that. Cunningham is ready to go, and that is going out for bid relatively soon. The board will be making some decisions, but has a pretty large commitment into going to an open bid process. This is a large project, about $14 million project, and so that's going to be an exciting kind of addition, if you would, to the west side of town, a real nice upgrade. Gaston is going to be done. We did a negotiated bid with Gilbank Construction, and that's going to be starting again now in April. They'll be moving in there. We were lucky enough to buy a couple of properties to be able to expand the playground and that, because it was a little bit of a closed-in area, if you would. I call it landlocked, but it's all land. So it's going to be a nicer lot for them to have. Hackett, you heard a little bit about Hackett from our dear guests that we had here before that was gracious enough to sell their company or their business that they had there for 50 years. Along with the pharmacy and some other properties, we're finally going to be able to expand this and give our kids a real nice place to have a school. And that's going to start construction also in April, and that'll be done by CCI. Will be doing that through a negotiated bid. This is going to be a real plus because we're going to be moving that, again, we're going to be moving that entrance to what's the west side along 8th Street there, so that's going to be nice. The next one we have is Todd Elementary. We think Todd is just one of those historical buildings in our district that has a lot of, not only a lot of class, but a lot of history that we need to keep up with integrity. It's going to be a beautiful addition. The architects have really done a nice job of matching up what the natural architecture, if you would, of Todd Elementary. They're doing some things to really help with the trafficking around there, and that will also be starting in April, and Klobuchar Construction, our local contractor, again, has got the bid for that. The new intermediate school, we still have not finished with the land part of that yet, but we're getting closer. The good news with that is that has not slowed us down as far as the architecture part of it and getting to the engineering and starting to look at what the next steps would be. This is an exciting thing for the east side of town, and we think it's going to be a real nice addition for the city of Beloit. So McNeil and Aldridge, real quick, will be part of a next year project that will be taken on after all of the referendum projects are kind of done, but we have to do some modifying and adapting to get both of those schools retooled, if you would, to become 4-8 intermediate schools. One of the exciting projects that we have going right now is at Beloit Memorial High School. We are redoing the tech ed area and the career tech ed. We use local industry as advisory teams to work with our teachers, because what we're doing is trying to get our kids to be industry ready so that when they leave high school, they'll be job ready to move on. So well documented over the last number of months, and we'll take this slide out soon and quit bragging about 2.3 interest rate for the lowest in state history, by the way, in the biggest referendum per student population in state history. So we're really proud of that number, but it did save our taxpayers a lot. So I guess really I'm just going to get to the summary. I know we have a long meeting, but all projects about June will be all going. And so it's kind of a fun time to be in the school district of Beloit. The one thing, the decision that the Board of Education made last board meeting was that we will be moving all of our 4K programming to their home sites. And so just encourage all parents out there. Our 4K enrollment is already up, and so we already have more kids enrolled at this time than we did last year at this time. But we really encourage any parents out there that know somebody that has a kid that's a 4-year-old or their own 4-year-old, you get to enroll them in your home school. We're looking at Janelle Maratz, our business manager, is working real hard at making sure we get some busing for the 4K kids too. So thank you very much. Any questions? Good. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Exciting times and great times for the district and for the city as well. Let's move forward now with reports to the board. First up, we have student board member reports. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. Okay. So right now at the high school, students are buzzing about the graduation requirements. They're still kind of waiting to hear the board's final decision. So students, I've heard mostly positive feedback, and that's been really positive. So we're kind of just waiting to hear back from the board about that right now. Also, students are really excited. There's a lot of excitement and pride going on in the school right now with the basketball team, and I know the swim team, and also the new construction. I know I have some friends on the swim team. They were saying that someone actually came and asked their opinion about what kind of tiles they wanted in the pool. So they were really excited, and students are just getting really engaged. And I know recently the Wisconsin Tommy Awards is going to do a documentary about high schools in the Tommies, and Beloit Memorial is one of 2 schools in all of the 56 schools that are recognized by the Tommies that got chosen to do a documentary on, and kind of just repeating the theme kind of the night. They're going to see our connection with students and then our teachers and our directors, and see how that relationship helps us to produce really good productions and helps us have those relationships in order to be good students and be good actors and techies and all that things that are involved in the theater. So right now there's a lot of pride and excitement going on at the high school. So that's all for this month.
Any questions for our student board member? Oh, we've been going so easy on you. Next month. All right, let's move forward then with committee reports. First up, we have John Winkelman with Finance, Transportation, and Property Committee, please.
Thank you, Shannon. We met on February 12th. We had a review of purchase orders, which is normal for us, just a couple of them. We spent some time talking about establishing a 501c3. That is it's becoming an issue in that as we go out and search for grants, which is a critical issue for us as we add to our funding opportunities. There are times when we need to have access to a 501c3. We need to be able to work through that. So we're exploring the concept of creating a 501c3 for the school district. It would be a separate entity. Many school districts have a foundation or something equivalent to that, and I think that's kind of where we are in terms of trying to explore that option at this point. We're also talking a little bit about how we review attendance boundaries. That process is just getting started, and we're going to bring some people in to help us kind of take a look at that question. We have a new busing contract, and that's going to help us. That company is also going to help us take a look at how we move students around the district. But as the schools are reformulated and we end up with the new schools that are going in place and the intermediate schools, there is a time, this is a great opportunity to step back and say, are we lined up correctly? Do we need to tweak it a little bit? What do we need to do? So it's a chance to step back and be able to think about that. So that's in the process of doing that now. Jeff Jacobson came to us and spent some time reviewing some capital projects that might come forward, or at least there's interest in, have been identified for the district to be able to say, if we have opportunities, if we have money, we might have some opportunities to be able to make some changes in our buildings. And these are kind of internal projects, ongoing internal projects, everything from boilers to tiles to basically the ongoing maintenance of our building. And we all know that's critical, just like we do it in our homes. We need to also be planning for it and putting it into the budget and the perspective of what we're going to do in our buildings so we can care for the buildings that we have, including the new ones, and be able to make things happen in those buildings that bring us up to date, keep us in compliance with code, and keep us in creating the best learning environments for students. So we will keep looking at that, and we will look at some ways to try to fund some of those projects so we can keep things moving. We then spent some time talking about the Transportation Service Contract Award. This was out for RFP, and this is the first one. We're several out for RFP now. This is the first one that came in. And so the recommendation was to move to Dunham School Services, which is a new transportation company for us, but presented many opportunities and some opportunities that we've never seen before, ways to look at expanding and perhaps better utilizing the buses within the district and save everybody money along the way. So that was an opportunity that we looked at and move that through for passage at some point at one of our meetings. We did a waiver of rental fee for the DreamWorks Teen Center, and we spent some time looking at the 600 policy revisions, which the policy committee will talk about. That was our meeting.
Thank you, John. Any questions for John? At this point, let's move to curriculum and instruction, and this month, Missy will be giving us our report.
We met on Tuesday, February 12th, and had a very full meeting. It was a great one. First, we had a monthly fund development report from our new development grant writer, Nancy McDonald, and she updated the committee on the grants that she has already submitted and those that we have voted to let her go ahead and submit. And those would be, if she receives any money, if she receives the money that she's applied for, it could be over $1 million, and that would cover 3 21st Century Learning grants for Gaston, Merrill, and Hackett, one grant that was written to update the Beloit Memorial High School Library, and the ones that those have been submitted and they're still pending. We had already previously approved her to go ahead and submit grants for iPads for the Early Learning Center, STEM training for our teachers, and equipment for the new Tech Ed, manufacturing and welding part of the Beloit Memorial Tech Ed. And she will go ahead with that. She also asked for permission for us to bring to the board several other grants that she would like to apply for, and that would be drug and alcohol abuse program grants, literacy program grant, money for instruments for our new intermediate school music program, farm to school program, and after school programs in K-12. Also, she would like to apply to the Ford Foundation for money for our equipment in our Tech Ed program. Very exciting. We hope that this all comes to fruition. We have then heard a report from our gifted and talented staff. They updated the committee on what is happening in the gifted program. The staff continues to identify more and more students In the academic areas, I think we have over 300 students now within the district that are classified as gifted or talented. And then this year, there was more testing area done in the areas of leadership and creativity, which meant the visual and performing arts area. Along with identifying and working with the gifted and talented, they do provide so much enrichment for all of our students within the district. And there are so many programs that they have taken over, like the Destination Imagination, BIF program that involves the fifth graders. There's a leadership conference that they take high school students to. There's an art immersion program for the middle school. Spelling bees, writing programs, and always the first in math competition, which involves all of the schools in the district except the high school, and giving a tally of how many kids chose to be in that competition. There were over 3,000 children in the district that benefited from extra math work. So they're a very busy staff of 3. We also heard an update on our MAPS testing from Peter Apple, and the good news is that all students are improving. However, he had analyzed this over a 5-year period, and it was interesting because he subtracted, they always look at different categories of people, but usually it's by race. This time he took out the students that have free and reduced lunches within the district, and that seems to be where our largest achievement gap lies. However, for all students within the areas that are not in the poverty area, most of them are above the national or norm, or at least at the national norm. So we're hoping to hear a little bit more from Peter. It was a crowded meeting and we didn't get a chance to really analyze the data, but he will come back to the curriculum committee. We also heard from the curriculum committee, administrators, that they would like to reinstate the tech ed course at the middle school next year. We had voted to omit that, but decided that changes in the tech ed courses at the middle school shouldn't happen until we are in the new schools. So we're recommending that the full board approves that change. Future items on the agenda are social workers and school psychologists being updated for the committee. Next month, youth options in April, and hopefully Mr. Apple will come back and talk more about the MAPS testing. And that was our meeting.
Thank you. Any questions for Missy or comments? Seeing none, let's move to Nora for Policy and Personnel, please.
The Policy and Personnel Committee met on January 22nd to discuss and approve personnel recommendations prior to our televised meeting. Then on February 12th, we met to discuss a number of policies, and as has been mentioned in the past, we have like 990 policies that we're trying to review, update, delete, and on the February 12th, we looked at about 25 of those policies. And as we're looking at those policies, again, we're looking to delete policies that are not currently used. They're outdated. But the policies that are updated, a lot of them have to do with maybe names of different buildings or positions, and just some archaic language. As I say that, some of these policies have not even been looked at or revised for up to 25 years. So this is a big task at hand, and we discussed that task at hand at our February 12th meeting, in that some have put the finance Department and also the Student Services Department have put a lot of time in those particular policies, but we have some other big chunks of policies to go through. So our original goal at the beginning of this term was to go through all of the policies, but what we're doing is we're just keeping a real rapid pace. And with that said, tonight for first reading, we are going to be we're going to be looking at some of the, or what we looked at on February 12th for first reading were some of the financial policies, and then for the second reading, what we looked at was some of the student policies, including the code of conduct. And then for deletion, we've talked about some policies in the 200 series, which has to do with administration policies. Additionally, we talked about, Mr. Kabelka talked about the updating of the employee handbook. This is something that we'd like to implement, or we need to implement by July 1st. So he's kind of working through that with various parties, and we're just getting updates at this time. He's put a lot of time into that. We also talked about our legislative update, where we were putting a letter together. We were crafting a letter together with the administration to send to our legislators, and I think that about does it. Any questions?
Questions or concerns for Nora? John?
You know, I've been following the committee. I'm not on the committee, for which I'm rather grateful. But I've been following all that you've been done, and the volume of work that is being pushed through this committee month in and month out lately has just been extraordinary. You guys are truly doing heavy lifting. You're doing a lot of it, and you're doing it well. And I just thought it was worth mentioning that this is a committee that's really doing yeoman work, and congratulations to you.
Thank you. I think we all work together as a team, all of our committees, but thank you. Yes, there is a lot of reading.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. Seeing nothing further, let's move forward into the WASB, the WASBO Joint Education Convention Report. And this one is open for anybody who'd like to share anything that they'd like to either, that they gleaned from the event or that they would just like to inform anybody of. So I see Missy, anybody, Nora, and John, and whoever else after that. So Missy, Nora, then John, and whomever else after that.
I'm just going to be very brief because, but I want to thank the district for allowing me to go, because I always find it very interesting, come up with new ideas. And this time, the one workshop that I went to that was all morning was the tour of the Wisconsin House of Finance. And this tried to explain to me and to about 100 other people sitting in the room trying to understand our formula for assessing our levy and funding our schools. And what I can say about it mostly is that I learned a lot of the vocabulary, which I think is almost key to understanding tertiary, secondary, primary aid, categorical aids, equalization, general fund, et cetera. So I hope I've become a little bit more familiar with it. I think I'm still in the learning process, but I thank the workshop for having attended that. I will also just talk about one other that I went to, because three of us went to quite a few the same. The other was, can your students succeed after graduation? And I thought, well, I better go to this, find out what's going on and see if we measure up. It was surprising. It was about the ACT, which my kids had taken the ACT, and I thought it was a test that you took to get into colleges. It is so much more than that. And when, Superintendent McNeil talks about wanting more kids to take the ACT, I can see exactly why. It's a huge program that not only tells kids how they're measuring up, but it's like the MAPS test. You take it periodically throughout the year. It tells you how you can change your courses to meet the needs of these kids. It's, again, talking to how we diagnose kids and treat their weaknesses. So I'm very impressed with the ACT, and I'll let the other ones talk about the other things.
Nora?
I too want to thank the district for giving the opportunity to attend this convention. And there were numerous workshops that were options to take. The 3 board members that did go, we tried to identify workshops that might vary a little bit, and some of them we attended together. But what I tried to do is look at workshops that maybe fit under the Policy and Personnel Committee. Plus, I did want to learn a little bit more about safer schools. And one workshop that I attended was 10 Steps to a Safer School. And in that particular workshop, we learned what schools should be doing. And so when I got back, I looked at what our school was doing, and it was right in line with what they said we should be doing. Another one that I attended is Best Kept Secrets and Missed Opportunities, and that particular workshop talked about how we really need to look at our whole student body and think of what they might be doing after graduation, and then kind of identify students that might do very well in manufacturing and going on to the technical schools rather than college, because that might be where their skill set is. But more importantly is there's a huge need in the manufacturing and business segments of our economic opportunities now. And what was pointed out is many times in high school we'll ask students about college, but we don't stress so much technical school. And for me, this kind of confirmed what we're doing now with all of our I guess, industrial subjects in our new facility there. I also attended a session on law issues where I think all 3 of us attended this, where we met some legislators to discuss some of the upcoming budget issues. And then I attended a legislative update workshop. And the benefit of that particular one, again, we were asked to consider writing a letter to our legislators about some of the needs of our district. And so we came back and we presented to the administration some ideas, and the administration, along with the board, moved forward with writing this letter, and it was delivered very timely to our legislators, so that felt pretty good. And then the last one that I attended was teacher salary structure, and it was presented by the Ripon School District, and it's a new way of thinking. Basically, looking at merit pay is a little bit part of that, but looking at all the categories of educators and how we might get away from the current way that we give raises. And this is a huge, there were so many people in this workshop that there were not enough chairs, and people were coming and going. So there's a lot of things to read on this. I don't expect to do a whole lot with this information because it's so in-depth, but I certainly will as time allows. So thank you again.
Thank you, Nora. John, please.
A couple of interesting things that haven't been talked about. One, I attended a session, in fact, it was the final session there, where guy who is a nationally known chef talked about how he rose from poverty and from a life surrounded by criminality and all that to become what he is. And I think essentially what it boiled down to was the closing the achievement gap and some of the ways to reach out to individuals, to bring them along, individual students and so on and so forth. And it was interesting because, in part, it was interesting because this school district is closing the achievement gap. And that's something that I think we can and should be taking pride in. No, we're not there yet, but we're trending in the right direction. And another one, too, had opportunities, as Nora alluded to talk with some of the leaders in the state legislature from both parties. And I think the topic of conversation was not about the governor's budget, but rather about those specific portions of it that actually affect schools and school funding. And so we talked about vouchers. We talked about the relatively flat amount that's coming to public schools and that sort of thing in the proposal. And obviously, like all proposals, it's subject to conversation and change. And I think that it was interesting to understand that a lot of people are thinking about this particular area. The media has paid some attention to it. And in talking to some of the Republican leadership that was there, they felt that some changes may well be in order. At the very least, the idea of vouchers, for example, only if they were voted in by the community. And more broadly, the question was being asked of whether or not vouchers were wanted and needed in all the proposed communities. And so this was interesting because sometimes as we talk in our own world, we tend to assume that the whole world thinks just the way we do. And so it's always good to get into these statewide forums and come to discover that we're right or wrong about this. In this particular case, it seems like the world is kind of trending our direction, so that's a good thing. So anyway, it was very worthwhile, and again, I thank the board and the school district for being allowed to go.
Thank you, John. Seeing nothing further, let's move forward then to the consent list.
Move approval of consent list.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next up, business action items. Item B, Student Transportation Service Contract Award.
I would move to approve the Student Transportation Service Contract Award to Dunham School Services.
Second.
And can I ask Janelle to maybe share a little bit with us and maybe the public to kind of talk about anytime we have new bus and bus service, this is exciting and opportunities and some new things happening, but you know, everybody gets a little nervous because it's not going to be the regular, same old-fashioned regular buses that we have. So probably still yellow.
Yellow with black pinstriping.
Ooh.
Still have the stop arms.
That's
and-
right, still have the
Yeah.
stop arms.
I'm really excited to recommend Durham School Services and to move forward with them. It's been a very exciting process, and we're very pleased. We had about 10 vendors on the bid list and received 3 pricing proposals back. And Durham is a very flexible and cooperative partner, and we're excited about some changes we'll be making, such as capacity, operating the buses, for longer periods of time, and working with them to look at routing and finding cost savings where we can, and to offer additional services where we can at the same cost. So we're really excited about it.
And we thank the board and the whole team for the exciting part, to go through the review process. We spent some time with your administration at our site in Racine and got to hear about some more of your issues, and I wouldn't say issues, but some of the opportunities that we have, going forward with our partnership. As Janelle mentioned, we're going to be bringing in a new computerized routing software that will help us with boundary planning, and we're going to be getting our team. We have a team that's a layer above our location that will help, do some of those routing things and look at the system as it is today to try to look at things like integrating the 4K program and giving you ideas and costs for that and different avenues we can take, as well as what the capacity is as you're looking to open the new buildings and potentially change the bell time structure for your system. And I know that routing program will offer an opportunity to provide routing details to families online. So it'll be a new feature, just one of the new features we bring to the table besides things like new buses to the district, as well as just a fresh approach and additional staffing to help field concerns and communication with the public.
Excellent. Thank you for being with us tonight. Any other questions? John Acom, please.
I was reading through some of the backstory on getting to this new partnership, and one of the and I was not at the last meeting. I was ill, but what I was reading was that there was an especially good deal being offered with a 5-year contract, and I guess I'm curious as to why we decided to stick with 3.
We considered a 5-year contract And what was offered to us is to lock in the escalation of 3% for 5 years. But after talking it over in partnership, we were kind of hoping that we would move forward with 3 years, be really excited about the partnership, and maybe consider a longer term the next time, such as 7 years. It's very common right now to lock into 7 years for student transportation, so after discussing it, we thought we would move forward with that approach.
Thank you.
John Winkelman, please.
Now, if you can chat. So, you know, when I rode the bus, the person way back when, right? No horses. It was yellow. But the most important person on the bus was the driver, right? Who knew my name and who could yell my name wherever it was in the bus. It was important. All those things happened. Yes, that happened. Can we talk a little bit about those familiar people that where did they fall? What happens to them in this change of contract?
Well, slowly, after we have some opportunity to get footing here, you know, as soon as we get the contract worked through, which we're going to be, I think, finalizing really soon, we would bring in and ask, you know, you if you can help us, you know, have a meeting here, maybe at a district's facility, and open the floor to just talk to those individuals that work for the company that you have now, and those folks that have been with the district for a long time, to hear about them and share more about our company. And then we begin a process of taking applications and, you know, moving forward. And, you know, it's our interest to hear and likely employ many of them that you have today.
Can I ask if that's been past experience as you've moved into other districts?
Yes. Yeah, we typically try to hire, you know, as many of those people as we can that have experience.
Cool. Thank you.
Anything further? Otherwise, the motion's been made and been seconded. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Janelle.
Thank you all. Next, we have new fund development opportunities.
Move approval.
Discussion? John?
Yeah, this is great stuff. This is these are the things that Missy talked about in the curriculum report. The new funding opportunities, the new grant opportunities. I think it's wonderful. I like to see more and more of it. And I like, again, the fact that we're out there, we're beating the bushes and looking for opportunities to help the school district with their funding.
Thank you, John. John Winkelman, please.
Thanks. I agree with John. I think it's interesting. We're going to have to get used to each other, right? Because normally we get a grant proposal and then we say yes or no, right? Should we go for it? This is like a slew of things, none of which is really a proposal yet, so it's hard to kind of know where we stand in the picture. It's a concept. So it's great, and I'm happy to vote yes for it now. I think we need to maybe have a little more conversation about how we get comfortable with conceptual grants and the things that we might want to see in the concept discussion, so that people know where we're moving. And I know that as this is happening, the administrative team is looking at these and saying yes or no to ones that they could recognize pretty quickly that would not be good for the school district. So.
Thank you, John. Anybody else? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. Middle school tech ed course reinstatement, please.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. Recommend for Series 600 fiscal management policies for first reading.
I would move approval of all 600 series policies for first reading. That would be 672.6 purchasing custodial supplies, 672.4 vendor relations, and 672.4 Rule 1 vendor relations guidelines, 673 payment procedures, 682 financial reports, and 684 audits.
Thank you, Michael. Second?
Second.
Second by John Akam. Discussion. Seeing none, this is for first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item F, policy 451, student insurance for second reading.
Move approval of policy 451 for final reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed. Next, Fiscal management policy revisions for second reading.
Move approval of fiscal management policies for revisions for second reading. 610 fiscal management goals, 620 annual operating budget, 622 Rule 1 guidelines for public notification of budget information, 623 budget implementation, 632 short-term borrowing, 641 state aid funds, 642 federal aid funds, 651 revenues from local tax sources, 653.1 use of activity, event, and tournament funds, 654 resale of school purchased items, 656 revenue from public and private grants, 661.1 authorized signatures or use of facsimile signatures, 661.2 check writing services, 662.1 management of student activity funds, and 662.1 Rule 1 procedures for management of student activity funds, 662.2 petty cash accounts, and 662.2 Rule 1 petty cash procedures, 664 cash in school buildings, 672 purchasing. With my thanks to everyone who participated in giving great feedback on revisions of these policies, and Janelle for her hard work in presenting them to us.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Real quickly, I would like to just have a brief point on 653.1 Rule 1 and the general use of funds, where it speaks about a tournament, it can be treated as a fundraiser if the board's approved it. I think that's outstanding, but I can honestly say I've never seen that come forth, and I think that perhaps individual organizations or clubs or different student groups, if they knew about this opportunity, would choose to use it. So perhaps our Fund 60 groups, if duly noted, this may be an opportunity, and I'm thinking even of the theater and all of the fundraisings that they do. This is a mechanism to help keep the funds that are generated within the group, within their organization, but it does require board approval prior to the event. So nothing being changed there, just pointing out that the policy and a mechanism for our student groups to retain some of the dollars that they work so hard to bring in. So any further discussion or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion does carry. Thank you, everybody, on that. And let's move forward to Series 200 policies for deletion for first reading.
I'll move for Series 200 policies for deletion first reading. 223 administrator professional development opportunities. 226 performance award system. 226 Rule 1 administrator qualification guidelines for performance awards. 226 Rule 2 performance award system for administrators compensation plan. Most of these, as we've looked at them, many are old, many are not used at all right now, and I think as we think about some of the new opportunities that are kind of in front of us for compensating staff, may come back to us in a different form. So it makes sense to take out the ones we're not doing now and come back. And we do have professional development opportunities for administrators. It's just this policy is antiquated and not functional.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. Moving to deletion of board policies in the 400 series for first reading.
I'd move approval of policies in the 400 series for first reading deletion. 410 student policies goals, 412.1 rule membership audit guidelines, 435 Rule 1 procedures for student transfers and withdrawals, 455.1 student safety patrols, and 455.4 Rule 1 guidelines for elementary safety patrols, 456 DC student assistance programs, and 456 Rule 1 DC general guidelines for student assistant programs. A lot of this has to do with our reconfiguration, the need to change those.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion or comment? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item J, policy 443, 447, student code of conduct and discipline for second reading.
Move adoption.
Second.
Discussion, John Akam.
Yeah, I've been one who's been very fussy about this particular thing, the student code of conduct and discipline. And we've gone through some iterations. I went through all of this material assiduously again before this meeting, and I'm really happy to say we got it right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carefully.
Thank you, John. John Winkleman?
He went through it carefully. I'm thinking about it too. I'm sorry. All right, hang on. So, I think for me, just so people know what we're doing too. I mean, this is so. In the past, we've had student code of conduct and policies that were on the books for each individual item almost in that book. And so what we've said, we've backed up and said, have one code of conduct, one policy. It comes to us as a whole. You think about it as a whole. People look at it as a whole. Nobody looks at it as the individual pieces. They look at it as a whole, and so it's going to come to us that way. And that way we don't have all these other policies that you have to track and keep in line. We have one item that is what students see and parents see and we see. So I think it'll be a benefit for everybody. And also, thanks very much to Barb and company for great work on this. And she really has done a great job in pulling this together with all of our concerns and iterations that we carefully looked at.
Thank you, John. Anybody else? Seeing nobody further. All those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. Next, we're at deletion of policies in the 400 series for second reading.
I move approval of the deletion of policies in 400 series for second reading. This is because we're talking about that change in code of conduct, removing duplication of efforts. So that'd be 443 and 447, Rule 1, and 443, Rule 2, Student Conduct and Discipline, 443.3 DC and 443.3, Rule 1 DC, Student Tobacco, 443.5 DC and 443.5, Rule 1, Threats to or by students, 443.6 and 443.6, Rule 1 DC, two-way communication. Hit me up on my two-way. 443.71 DC hazing, 443.8 DC weapons in schools, 443.9 DC PK 12 code of classroom conduct, 447.2 student detentions.
We took out the rotary phone one a while ago.
yeah, that one had been removed before, but now the pager problem we have, we need to address that.
It's been moved and seconded, and just again for edification, we're not necessarily getting rid of what these encompass. They're just rolling into policy 443, 447, student code of conduct. So we have that one comprehensive.
Reiteration, you mean, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
We're getting rid of the reiteration and having a clear, concise message to all students, parents, and community members. So, any further discussion or comment on this deletion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion does carry. We are at personnel recommendations. Please refer to the updated Exhibit A that you had on your table as you came in this evening.
Move approval.
Discussion or concerns or comments? John?
Just one, that this is the time of year when we start to see retirements and some early retirements. And, the people on our table tonight are 33 years and 16 years and 12 and 17 and 24 years. So some people that have been around for a long time and well-deserved opportunity to retire and move forward, but with great thanks as we think about all of the great service they've done for the district and for the kids.
And Nora?
I think I'd just like to add to that, too. We were told earlier that there could be more added to this list because of a March 1st deadline date, but it might go into April where we may see more of our staff that would like to retire. So next month we might have more.
Further discussion? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. Items for discussion. Items of interest for consideration at future meetings. John Winkleman, please.
So I'm thinking about, there's lots of conversation about vouchers and charters and kind of what is happening in Madison versus what's happening here. And it was a fascinating article in the Daily News the other night about kind of how people think about that in relation to some of our wonderful private schools that are in the community serving students well and meeting their needs, which we appreciate and I think most of us think are important. Lots of interesting conversation about competition. So I think it would be healthy for us to step back with the administrative team or whoever's team would like to bring and spend an hour and talk a little bit about how we compete. I don't know that we put that competition hat on very often, but I think it would be worthwhile to do. I mean, people are looking at it. If you listen to what people talk about in the community or the article in the paper, you know, it's supposed to be healthy and good for us. So that'd be great. I know we think about it because we think about it in terms of AP courses we offer and all those kinds of things, but maybe there's other places we need to step back and think about what we do. And we may also learn and be able to better identify areas that we would like to be able to compete in and that the state tells us you may not. So that would be helpful too, because I think we could then share that with our local community that, you know, there are times and places where our hands are tied and we can't operate in the same way that perhaps a different entity could. So I think it's worth spending some time to do it, and this is a good time as this budget is unfolding, because I think maybe our discussion could inform our state legislators a little bit about what that might mean.
Thank you, John. I agree. I think we'll find out we're all conference in many of those areas. We're not only varsity, we're all conference. So that'll be an outstanding conversation, and I look forward to that. Anybody else with items of consideration for future meetings? Seeing none, just announcement of future board meetings. We'll have our committee meetings on March the 12th, and that will include finance, transportation, and property, curriculum and instruction, as well as policy and personnel. And our next televised business meeting shall be on March the 26th, 2013. Yes, following this meeting, we will reconvene out of our recess in our meeting down the hall that we were not able to complete prior to this meeting. With that, unless I see any objections, we shall be adjourned from this meeting. Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.